Well, hi everyone. I'm Andy Asher, editor of BloomerBoomer. Now let's see if you know the answers to these clues about this week's guest on BloomerBoomer. Who was the second most popular pop artist of the late 1950s, right behind the king Elvis Presley? Now that's a good clue. Here's another one. Recently as 2010, it's a guy we are talking about, by the way. He owned the title for the most consecutive weeks with a song on Billboard magazine's music chart for 220 consecutive weeks. Now there are some other clues, but if you don't know yet, it is Pat Boone, and he is our guest. We talked to him about everything from what it was like hosting a major television show at just 23. That's when there were just 3 networks and most all eyes in America were glued to television. We also talked to him about growing up in a Christian household and later converting to Judaism. It's a great conversation. We'll be right back with Pat Boone. This is part of the Plus 50 Good Life movement, a project of the BloomerBoomer.com publication. Pat Boone, it is such a pleasure to have you joining us here at BloomerBoomer. You know, I want to hear all about this amazing tour that you're launching, but first, would love to hear how you've been. Now, again, thanks for being here. It's great.
Listen, we've created a BloomerBoomer.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. So listen, you're now 83, and from what I've read, you are a very active guy.
Very, yeah.
And how do you do it?
Well, I obviously born with good genes. My dad lived to be 94 and was active almost all of that time. Mama 91, telling Daddy what to do. In fact, she outlived him by about 6 weeks.
Wow.
That not chronologically, but she was younger when they married. So I inherited good genes, but I've always stayed healthy and tried to eat the right stuff so I could eat a little bit of the wrong stuff. But good habits and lots of exercise and really, I think, active interest in too many things. I find myself getting involved and obligated to good causes and good things, and
that's normally not a problem to be active, and you're fortunate that you can say too many things.
Yeah, I find myself under pressure quite a lot because people are waiting for answers or for me to do things that we thought we might be able to do together, and I'm not getting back to them as often as they expected because I'm involved with too many other things. So there's such a thing as being too active, and I think I have been. I say my wife Shirley feels like she's married to 3 men and wishes 2 of them would get lost.
Well, look, BloomerBoomer is all about embracing life as we get older. So at 83, like anyone who gets 1 day older, you know, life is different. Tell us about what has stood out with you as the years roll by.
Well, being active, I mean physically as well as just and mentally. I like to do crossword puzzles, which is good for you mentally. And I read as much as I can ever find time for. But I also play singles tennis every week with a younger guy. He's only 80. And we play singles tennis, but I mean, it sounds like we would just be doddering old foofs.
Yes, singles is tough. And you don't find many people over 60 they're going to doubles at that point in life.
I know, and I haven't ever gotten into doubles. I can play doubles, but I like to go for everything, and so does my opponent. We're both really very active for our ages and very competitive. Neither of us wants to lose, so we play at least 2, and generally it'll be a third set on Friday or Saturday each week. And about 3 weeks ago, I played a younger guy. He was only 63 from the health club, but he'd been egging me on to play. And I knew he had to be a good player, and he was. In fact, he was so good at 63, and I'm not bad, but he beat me 6-love. I didn't win 1
Darn.
point.
Oh, my
And
goodness.
played the second set. I won 1 point.
Uh-huh.
He beat me 6-love. The third set, I won a game and 2 or 3 points. And then I challenged him to a 4th set, and I won 2 games and a lot of points. So I liked the trend. I almost challenged him to a 5th set, but I knew that I was pushing it a little bit.
Well, you know what they say, you don't get better unless you challenge people who are better than you know.
Exactly. I love to play people that are better than me.
Now,
I love.
your entertainment career started when you were so young. At the age of 23, you were hosting a half-hour ABC variety television series, the Pat Boone
Yep.
Chevy Showroom, which aired at 115 episodes from 57 to 60. Now, we see a lot of young talent coming up today, but did it surprise you back then that you were going strong so young?
I couldn't believe it. I mean, there was already the Walter Mitty story, Walter Mitty fantasy, and I felt I was living it. Somebody, I was going to pinch me, or somebody was going to pinch me, and I'd wake up, and this was all a dream. That I was the youngest guy ever to host his own musical variety show on a network, and I was having all these major stars come on and be my guests. And I recently put out an album, audio album and video album, a DVD of singing with Ella Fitzgerald, Nat King Cole, Perry Como, Tony Bennett, Johnny Mathis, Sammy Davis, on and on. And then my own peers, you know, like Little Richard and Fats Domino and Frankie Avalon
Wow,
and
what's
Connie
some great memories. Oh my goodness, that's
Roy
just
Rogers.
yeah, of course, of course. You know, you kind of touched upon this, but as performers, an entertainer, a singer, and the many things that you do, keeping your voice healthy is so important. What do you do to keep sounding so good?
Well, I work at it. I like anything else. If you, my granddad told me a long, long time ago, what if you don't use it, you'll lose it. And he wasn't talking about my voice,
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, certainly.
but but it's true that whatever you don't keep using, the voice is muscles. It is muscles in your throat and the larynx, and so I, knowing that I've got concerts as I have still coming up, and I did Valentine's night at a place called Laguna Woods, sold out show, and knowing that was coming, but I had a flu bug, and I was having to fight that, but I was still exercising, going upstairs and singing with some of my early recording tracks that are demanding and require me to sing well. And so I'd go up and keep singing even through the flu and the coughing. And I was afraid the coughing was going to just ravage the vocal cords. But the weird thing was, taking the antibiotics and stuff I had to take, the swelling that had taken place in the vocal cords went down. I was still coughing a lot, but that night, which was Valentine's Day night, which was last week, I sang better than I've sung in a long time because I realized coughing uses the diaphragm.
How interesting.
That's how you,
That's fascinating.
that's a diaphragmatic action. And I was coughing
Yeah.
all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as my voice muscles weren't swollen, then I had great diaphragmatic support. I heard myself singing better than I had in a year or two after all of this coughing. And I realized, hey, that I was just using the diaphragm during that flu episode. And so but I do it consciously on purpose. Frequently, I just go upstairs and sing with some of my early records and recorded tracks to demand. And, you know, another thing I used to do when I was in my teens and into my young manhood, I would lead singing at church. We had a cappella singing. We didn't have an organ or piano. It was all a cappella, 4-part harmony. And I would just go waving my arms, sing the wondrous love of Jesus, sing his mercy and his grace. I don't know what it's doing here, but it was creating a beat to sing to.
I see.
And I would lead a congregation of anywhere from 75 to 300 and 400 people at a time, no microphone, just vocal, leading them in congregational singing. And I wasn't thinking of it as a vocal exercise, but of course it was.
Sure.
So now I'll get out one of my old songbooks and I'll just act like I'm still leading a congregation of 300 or 400 people. And I'll sing 5 or 6 hymns, all 4 verses, just a cappella, demanding that I be heard over the voices of the crowd, or at least along with them. And I'm doing a vocal exercise that is phenomenal and is really the reason that I sang well from the beginning of my career. And now it's encouraging me to sing well now after after over 60 years.
Well, like you just said, you use it or lose it. And I know at one time in your career or in your life, you had really bulked up where you were kind of super muscular.
Yeah.
That must have given kind of a vision of how being fit and it really helps out.
Well, yeah, that was then, but now I can't hold this computer and show you, but I'm still buffed up. I mean,
Fantastic.
for a guy my age, I look sort of like that guy, the Cypergenics.
Uh-huh.
Guy in his
You
late
look better
70s.
than you look better than that.
No, he looks great, that guy.
Oh, really? Okay.
I tell the people at the gym, I have a six pack. It's just covered up with a little layer of suet uh, for warmth.
Well, let me get into this other part because I know for a long time now you've been associated with activities and events in Israel. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, by all means. I learned when I was growing up in Nashville, my dad, a building contractor, mom, a registered nurse, both, excuse me, very practical professions. And yet it was to my younger brother and two sisters and me just as practical that we studied the Bible. We went to church. We learned why we were there, what it was about to be Christians. But we knew, which unfortunately a great majority of Christians haven't really focused on, is that the whole Bible, and that's from the beginning of Genesis. In the beginning, God created the earth, everything there is. And then all the way to the book of Revelation, which is the last book in the New Testament, all of it, the whole Bible, written by Jews, for Jews, about Jews, and all focused on little Israel, little now. Back then, it was much more important, but all focused on Israel and the people God called his chosen people, chosen to be examples of how he would bless people if they would try to do things the way he invented and meant for us to live.
What a fantastic story. And I guess that also lends into the explanation that people ask you about is when or how or why you converted from Christianity to Judaism.
Well, yes, that has come up a lot because I wrote an article once why I became a Jew. And what I meant, and if you read it, then you understand that I became a Jew through my allegiance to the Messiah, because Jesus himself Jewish, all of his followers Jewish. The first decade of the existence of what we now call the church, it wasn't called that. It was called followers of the way, of the one who had given himself as a sacrifice for all mankind for their sins, and then rose from the dead on the third day and went back to heaven and said, okay, from now on, those who believe in me and commit to me are part of God's chosen family. So I've told many rabbis, my Judaism is not Orthodox, not conservative, not Reformed, it's Messianic. And if Christians only knew everything we believe and hold sacred comes whole cloth out of historic Judaism. So we're not converting to Judaism, we are adopted. I tell people at the health club when they ask me about my Chai and my Mogen David, Star of David, are you Jewish? Yeah. Pat Boone is Jewish? I said, yeah. Adopted. I'm an adopted Jew. Oh, are your parents Jewish? No. They're adopted Jews as well. And then that starts the conversation like this one.
I imagine it does. And before, Pat, we run out of time, I just want to ask you, could you talk a little bit about the Holy Land Tour in May?
Please. It is May 9th through the 20th. I'll be going over a couple of days early. I'm going to sing Exodus from Masada, as I have done on a video, which I can supply you if you like.
This is what the sovereign Lord says. On the day I cleanse you from all your sins, I will resettle your towns, and the ruins will be rebuilt. The desolate land will be cultivated instead of lying desolate in the sight of all who pass through it. They will say, this land that was laid waste has become like the Garden of Eden, The cities that were lying in ruins, desolate and destroyed, are now fortified and inhabited. Then the nations around you that remain will know that I, the Lord, have rebuilt what was destroyed and have replanted what was desolate. I, the Lord, have spoken, and I will do it.
But we're going to redo that video, and we're also going to do a special from the Roman amphitheater in Caesarea that was built by the Romans when they occupied Israel and enslaved, really, the people of Israel then. And of course, the tour will go to all the famous sites and from the 9th through the 20th, but that is built around May 14th, which is the 70th anniversary of the modern state of Israel. It became a new nation again in 1948 when Harry Truman cast America and our endorsement to the new state. And 1948, May 14th, was the birth date of the modern state of Israel. And May 14th this year will be the 70th anniversary. So we're going to be there celebrating and commemorating and paying tribute to the modern state and all the contributions Israel has made to the world. And you'll never be safer in your life than when you're with me in Israel, May 9th through the 20th. Just go to patboone.com. patbooneisraeltour.com. You can find out at patboone.com.
We'll put something on the website and on this show as well, so people can refer to it.
And it's my last tour, and it's my last hurrah, my finale. And I would invite everybody to come. And I will sing for all of our tour members, and I will, and as many other performers like Dino Katsanakis, the great pianist, and Maurice Sklar, the great violinist, and there will be other well-known American singers who've never been to Israel, who have let me know they'd like to go on this particular tour because it's the 70th anniversary. So,
yeah,
welcome, come one, come all.
Right on my birthday.
Well, it did.
Yeah, I'm 70.
So it'll be the May 14th?
Well, not that close, but
May.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
listen, I just finally, maybe one takeaway for our community of BloomerBoomer, what might be a lesson that you discovered as you traveled through your 60s and onward that maybe you didn't know about, that maybe if someone else learned it, that life could have been a little bit better?
Well, this is going to sound super religious, but to me, my faith is super practical, because if there is a creator, and the Bible itself says the fool says in his heart, there is no God. Most of us believe in some kind of God, and he will bring about your success. But, like any other partner, he wants to be wants to have a relationship. This life is pretty short. And so if we miss the boat for eternity, then we've missed it all.
Wow, what a great way to close this out. Pat Boone, it's been such a pleasure to have you joining us here on BloomerBoomer, and have a wonderful trip, and we'll be following you with rapt attention. Thank you.
We could do another BloomerBoomer then eventually.
That's right. That is it.
All right.
Thanks so much, Pat. Bye-bye.
Shalom.
I hope you liked the show and learned a thing or two. The full show will be available on YouTube and at BloomerBoomer. The audio version will be available on Apple Podcasts. And we have some other shows coming up with some really amazing guests. So like us on Facebook and visit us at bloomerboomer.com. Until next time, so long.